What an intriguing group of individuals you are.
What an intriguing group of individuals you are.
To a psychologist.
As a psychologist.
I've had the opportunity over the last couple of days of listening in on some of your conversations.
I have an opportunity damn it. Opportunity to listen in some of your conversation.
And watching you interact with each other, and I think it's fair to say...
And watching you interact, and I think it's fair to say...
already that there are 47 people
That there are already 47 people
in this audience at this moment displaying psychological symptoms I would like to discuss today.
displaying psychological symptoms I'd like to discuss today.
And I thought you might like to know who you are.
And I thought you might like to know who you are.
But instead of pointing at you, which would be gratuitous,
But instead of pointing at you, which would be gratuitous, which would be gratuitous. Instead of pointing at you, which would be gratuitous and intrusive. Gratuitous.
and intrusive, I thought I would tell you a few facts and stories in which you may catch a glimpse of yourself.
I would tell you some stories and facts and stories in which you may catch a glimpse of yourself.
I'm in the field of research known as personality psychology, which is part of a larger personality science which spans the full spectrum from neurons to narratives.
I'm in the field of research known as personality psychology, which is part of a larger personality science which spans the full spectrum from neurons to narratives.
And what we try to do, in our own way, is to make sense of how each of us, each of you, is in certain respects like all other people, like some other people, and like no other person. Now already...
And what we try to do in our own ways to make sense of how each of us, each of you is in certain respects like all other people, like some other people, and like no other person.
Already you may be saying of yourself, I'm not intriguing.
Now already you may be saying of yourself, I'm not intriguing.
I am the 46th most boring person in the Western Hemisphere.
I'm the 46th most boring person in the Western Hemisphere.
Or you may say of yourself,
or you may say of yourself,
I am intriguing. Even if I am regarded by most people as a great thundering twit.
I'm intriguing even if I am regarded by most people even if I'm regarded by most people as a great thundering twit. Twit. Intriguing, thundering.
But it is your self-diagnosed boringness and
But it's your self-diagnosed boringness
your inherent twittiness
and your inherent twittiness
that makes me as a psychologist really fascinated.
that makes me, as a psychologist, really fascinated
By you.
by you.
So let me explain why this is so.
So let me explain why this is so.
One of the most influential approaches in personality science
One of the most influential approaches in personality sciences
is known as trait psychology, and it aligns you along 5 dimensions.
is what? Personality psychology? Trait psychology, and it aligns you. It aligns you along 5 dimensions,
Which are normally distributed,
which are normally distributed,
that describe universally held aspects of difference between people.
that describe universally held aspects of difference between people.
They spell out the acronym OCEAN.
They spell out the acronym OCEAN.
So O stands for open to experience versus those who are more closed. To experience versus those who are more closed.
So O stands for open to experience versus those who are more closed.
C stands for conscientiousness,
She stands for consciousness.
in contrast to those with a more lackadaisical approach to life.
In contrast to those with a more lackadaisical what?
In contrast to those with a more lackadaisical approach to life. Extroversion. Extroversion. In contrast to more introverted people.
Lackadaisical. Lackadaisical.
Lackadaisical. Lackadaisical. In contrast to those with a more lackadaisical approach to life. In contrast, she stands for conscientiousness. Conscious in contrast to those with a more lackadaisical approach to life. Lackadaisical approach to life. Conscientiousness.
In contrast to those with a more lackadaisical approach to life. E. Extroversion.
Extroversion. Extroversion. Extroverted.
In contrast to more introverted people.
In contrast to more introverted people.
A. Agreeable individuals. In contrast to those decidedly not agreeable.
E is agreeable people in contrast to those decisively not agreeable.
And N. Neurotic individuals. In contrast to those who are more stable.
N stands for neurotic people in contrast to those people who are more stable. Neurotic.
Neuroticism.
All of these dimensions have implications for our well-being, for
All dimensions have implications for our well-being,
how our life goes. And so we know that, for example, openness and conscientiousness are very good predictors
So we know, for example, open those what? Open those. We know that, for example, openness and consciousness are very, very good predictors
of life success,
of life success.
but the open people achieve that success through being audacious and occasionally odd.
But open people achieve those success through being audacious and occasionally odd. Audacious.
The conscientious people achieve it through sticking to deadlines.
The conscientious people achieve success through sticking to deadline,
to persevering, as well as having some passion.
as well as having some passion.
Extroversion and agreeableness are both conducive to working well with people, audacious, and the conscientious people achieve it to persevering, as well as having some passion. Extroversion and agreeableness are both conducive to working well with people.
Extraversion and agreeableness are both conducive to working well with the people. Conducive to working well with people.
Extroverts, for example, I find intriguing with my classes. I sometimes give them a basic fact that might be revealing with respect to their personality.
Extroverts, for example, I find intriguing with my classes. I sometimes give them a basic fact that might be revealing with respect to their personality.
I tell them that it is virtually impossible for adults to lick the outside of their own elbow.
I tell them it's virtually impossible for an adult to lick at the outside of their elbow. I tell them that it's virtually impossible for adults to lick the outside of their own elbow.
Did you know that? Already some of you have tried to lick the outside of your own elbow.
Already some of you tried to lick out the outside of your elbow.
But extroverts amongst you are probably those who have not only tried, but they have successfully licked the elbow of the person sitting next to them.
But the extroverts are in fact are those who not only have tried, but also succeeded in licking the outside of outside of the person's elbow who's next to them. But extroverts amongst you are probably those who have not only tried, but they have successfully licked the elbow of the person sitting next to them.
Those are the extroverts. Let me deal in a bit more detail with extroversion because it's consequential and it's intriguing and it helps us understand what I call our three natures. First, our biogenic nature, our neurophysiology. Second, our sociogenic or second nature, which has to do with the cultural and social aspects of our lives. And third, what makes you individually you, idiosyncratic, what I call your idiogenic nature. Let me explain. Second, our it's extroverts. Let me deal in a bit more detail. Those are the extroverts.
Those are the extroverts.
Let me deal in a bit more detail with extroversion.
Let me deal in a bit more detail with extroversion.
Because it's consequential and it's intriguing. And it helps us understand what I call our three natures. First,
it helps us understand what I call our three natures.
Our biogenic nature,
Our biogenic
neurophysiology.
Our neurophysiology, our biogenic nature, our neurophysiology.
Second, our sociogenic or second nature.
our sociogenic or second nature,
which has to do with the cultural and social aspects of our lives. And
which has to do with our cultural and social aspects of our lives.
third, what makes you individually you,
What makes you individually you?
idiosyncratic,
Idiosyncratic.
what I call your idiogenic nature.
What I call your idiogenic nature.
Let me explain.
Let me explain.
One of the things that characterizes extroverts is they need stimulation.
One of the things that characterize extroverts is they need stimulation. One of the things that characterize extroverts, they need stimulation.
And that stimulation can be achieved by finding things that are exciting.
And the stimulation can be achieved by finding things that are exciting. The stimulation can be achieved by finding things that are exciting.
Loud noises, parties,
Loud noises, parties,
and social events here at
and social events.
TED. You see the extroverts forming a magnetic core, and they all
You see the extroverts form a magnetic core
gather together, and I've seen you.
and gathered. What? You see the extroverts forming a magnetic core. They all gather together, and I have seen you.
The introverts are more likely to spend time in the quiet spaces up on the second floor.
The introverts are more likely to spend their time quietly up on the second floor. More spending the quiet spaces up on the second floor,
Where they are able to reduce stimulation and
where they are able to reduce stimulation.
may be misconstrued as being antisocial.
Maybe misconstrued as being antisocial. Misconstrued as being antisocial. Construe.
But you're not being antisocial. But you're not necessarily antisocial.
You are not necessarily antisocial.
It may be that you simply realize that you do better when you have a chance to lower that level of stimulation.
And maybe you just realize you may be doing better when you have the low levels of stimulation. It may be that you simply realize that you do better when you have a chance to lower.
Sometimes it's an internal stimulant
Sometimes it's internal stimulant
from your body. Sometimes it's an internal stimulant from your body. Caffeine, for example, works
out from your body. Caffeine, for example.
much better with extroverts
Caffeine for you works much better with the extroverts
than it does introverts.
than it does introverts. Extroverts, oh yeah.
When extroverts come into the office at 9 o'clock in the morning and say, I really need a cup of coffee,
When extroverts come to office at 9 o'clock and already say, I really need a coffee. When extroverts come into the office at 9 o'clock in the morning and say, I really need a cup of coffee.
they're not kidding.
They're not
They
kidding.
really do.
They really do.
Introverts do not do as well, particularly if the tasks they're engaged in
Introverts do not do that. Introverts do not do as well, particularly if the task they're engaged in,
and they've had some coffee.
and they have some coffee.
If those tasks are speeded
If those tasks are speeded,
and if they're quantitative,
and if they're quantitative,
introverts may give the appearance
introverts may give the appearance
of not being particularly quantitative,
of not being particularly quantitative,
but it's a misconstrual.
but it's misconstrual.
So here are the consequences that are really quite intriguing.
So here are the consequences that are really intriguing.
We're not always what we seem to be, and that takes me to my next.
And we're not always what seem to be, and that takes me to my next point.
I should say, before getting to this, something about sexual intercourse.
I should say before getting into this something about sexual intercourse.
Although I may not have time, and so If you would like me to, I would. Yes, you would. Okay.
Although I may have no time, I might not have time, and so if you'd like me to, yes, okay.
There are studies done on the frequency with which
There are studies done on the frequency with which
individuals engage in the conjugal act.
individuals engaged in the conjugal act. And relationship between two marriages, but the section conjugal act,
As broken down by male, female, introvert, extrovert.
as broken down by male and female, and extroversion, introvert, extrovert.
So I ask you, how many times per minute? Oh, I'm sorry, that was a rat study.
So may I ask, how many times per minute?
How many times per month do introverted men engage in the act?
How many times per month do introverted men engage in the act? In the conjugal act.
3.0. Extroverted men?
Extroverted
More
men?
or less?
More or less?
Yes, more. 5.5, almost twice as much.
Almost twice as much.
Introverted women, 3.1. Extroverted women, frankly, speaking as an introverted male,
Speaking as introverted male,
which I will explain later,
which I will explain later,
they are heroic.
they are heroic.
7.5, they not only handle all the male extroverts, they pick up a few introverts.
They may may not only handle all the male extroverts, they pick up a few introverts as well. Heroic.
We communicate differently,
We communicate differently.
extroverts and introverts. Extroverts, when they interact, want to have lots of social encounter punctuated by closeness. They like to stand close for comfortable communication.
Huh.